Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of the Profit Share Podcast. I'm your host, Press McKissick. And again, if you've been following along, we're excited as we continue through the book series that we have right now, which is we have been narrating and reading through the book, The Profit Share Advantage, that Linda and I wrote, helping you inside of KW unlock passive income through profit share. Now, in today's episode, we're going to cover chapter 5, which is all around mastering the recruiting phone call. And this is a really fun one because this is where you get to experience a little bit of, how do I say this? Like you get better over time, right? Like your skill set gets to improve as you understand that there is a good way to have a phone call with someone who's not yet with KW, and there's a bad way to do it. And we've seen so many different recruiting calls that we've been able to map out the 5 key steps of how to have a wonderful and impactful recruiting call. And I'm going to give you the real secret behind everything is talk less, right? Don't talk as much. Let them talk. So we're going to cover all the strategies, all the tips you need to know in order to have a great recruiting phone call with someone who's not yet with KW. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I want to share a couple things. Number one, again, if you've been listening, you've heard me say this. I've said it on every episode, but my ask is you will actually do it. Will you please go to Amazon.com? We'll have a link below in the description, but will you go get 2 copies of our book, a physical copy of our book? And here's what I'd love for you to do. Number one, I want you to keep a copy. And number 2, I'd like you to give a copy away to someone in KW that you want to bless with the gift of profit share. So if you'll please do that for Linda and I, that would be a big help. We don't make any money from the book, but it does help us accomplish our mission of helping more and more people go on the journey to get passive income through KW and through profit share. The second thing I'd like to remind you, if you haven't yet signed up to test drive our profit share sites for agents, there will be a link in the description. Really, this book covers the strategy of how to do it, but without the tool, it's really hard to do. So I'd encourage everyone to go sign up if you haven't already. That link will be in the description as well. And then finally, the last thing is we actually created a really cool cheat sheet, which covers, again, the 5 points of a great recruiting phone call. And we have that link in the description as well. So that's a cheat sheet, our free gift to you, and will be something that I'd encourage you, if you're going to do this strategy, to put on your desk somewhere so that you can see it and be able to reference from time to time. So with that being said, enjoy as you move into chapter 5 of the book.
Welcome to the Profit Share Podcast with your hosts, Linda and Press McKissick.
Hi, I'm Andy Finstermaker, and I oversee client support, client management, and the overall profit share community around profit share sites and market center sites. Today, we are looking at Chapter 5 of the Profit Share Advantage by Press McKissick. Chapter 5, Mastering the Recruiting Call. Wait a minute, are you telling us your recruiting calls are only 10 minutes long? Each quarter, we host a virtual mastermind with all of our Profit Share site members to share best practices and ideas for how to use the system better. One particular month, I had one of our amazing members, Heather Fisher, come on to share how she had recruited 16 people in her first 90 days of using the system. What I love about Heather's story is that she is in an operations role for a top real estate team in Keller Williams. Heather is not the type of person who would want to cold call agents to grow her profit share. However, she is someone who will follow a process and a system. As Heather was sharing about her results in her first 90 days on our virtual mastermind, she said, "Yeah, my recruiting calls average about 10 minutes. Heather said it quickly and proceeded to move on with the conversation. I abruptly interrupted her to clarify what she had just said, and sure enough, she had found a way to get her recruiting calls down to just 10 minutes. Now, more on this later. In this chapter, we're going to talk about how to master the recruiting calls that the system schedules on your calendar. It's important to first note that these are the easiest recruiting conversations ever. The hardest part about these calls is that they follow the same flow over and over and over again. You have to be willing to fall in love with the repetitive boredom because that is the path to success in anything you choose to do. Part of the genius of this process is that these people are taking the initiative to schedule a call with you and not the other way around. These recruits want to talk to you about the process of joining KW and are very appreciative of your time. It's amazing to see the stories shared in our private Facebook community for our members of the impact we are making for these people as we help them navigate their real estate journey. From a strategy perspective, you should view your role in helping these recruits like a high school college counselor who is listening, providing insights, and illuminating the path forward for them. Much like an advisor or consultant, you want to understand who they are and where they are in their real estate journey, and ultimately give them clarity on the next steps. In fact, our automated communications refer to our members as career consultants. Our members have had thousands and thousands of conversations on the phone with recruits, which we call discovery calls, and we have learned a lot about what works and what doesn't on these calls. Ultimately, we have found that a great recruiting call consists of 5 or 6 key topics that make up our recruiting call framework. Let's break down the recruiting call framework so you can learn to master the conversational topics that lead to growing your downline. Introduction and rapport building. As with any relationship building, it's important to establish rapport in the beginning. Understand that you will likely never actually meet this person face to face. So what you do on this phone call is key to establishing value and connection. A great rule of thumb is to be genuinely interested in the person and their story. Remember that the person who talks the most always feels like it's the best conversation. At the start of the call, make sure to always introduce yourself. I would simply say, "Hey Linda, it's Preston McKissick with Keller Williams. How are you doing today?" Keep it simple and brief because the real star of the conversation is them. I like to break the ice with a fun question like, "So Linda, tell me about you. You were born and then what happened?" If you can get them to smile or laugh within the first few minutes of the conversation, you are starting off on the right foot. It's also important to mirror and match the recruit. If they are excitable and a fast talker, pick up your speed and match it. If they are more thoughtful and reserved, slow down, lower your tone. Like attracts like, so adjust to meet the recruit where they are. Their journey to real estate. After introductions, have your recruit tell you about their journey to realizing they wanted to pursue a career in real estate. This is where most our members fall in love with the process. You begin to learn people's genuine stories of hope and loss and dreams and desires as they move towards real estate. It's such an impactful moment when you learn their story and get to be part of the solution for helping them build a bigger, brighter future. You connect with these recruits on such a personal level, and the reward is greater than you realize. Speaking of connection, the best way to create connection through their story is by actively listening to the conversation. Demonstrating genuine interest in their journey will help you authentically engage them to create a quick connection and give you important information about where they have come from. To ask this question, you might say, "Tell me about what made you decide to pursue a career in real estate." Notice it's open-ended and allows them to take it in whatever direction they choose. You might ask them a few follow-up questions about their story to go deeper into why they chose real estate. Mainly, what you are searching for here is a clear big why, as we call it in KW. Their big why is their core motivation for going down this path to launch a career in real estate. When you uncover their big why, you are able to use that information now and later in the relationship. Think about it. Who do you share your core motivations with in your life? Usually it's the people closest to you, the ones you have the deepest connections with. If they are willing to let you into the space where you know their core motivation and drive to get into real estate, you're forming a deeper connection. Where are they in the process? Once they have shared their journey and their big why for launching a real estate career with you, it's time to turn the conversation towards where they are today in the licensing process. This question is really important because it gives you clarity on what to do with them next. If they just started their licensing process, it's likely going to be a few months before you want to connect them with a local Keller Williams office. If they just pass their test, then you will want to immediately refer them to a local office. As a general rule of thumb, we recommend not referring a recruit to a local office until after they pass their licensing exams. The only caveat to that rule is if they are getting licensed in a state where a broker must sponsor them to take their licensing exams. Good example, Ohio. We have found waiting until after they complete their licensing test to be the best practice to help maximize your opportunity to have the recruit name you as their sponsor and save the Market Center extra unnecessary work. If you refer a recruit too early, you put work on the Market Center to continue to follow up with your recruit, and the recruit will likely start to forget about you. If you refer a recruit too late, well, they will likely have gone around you and interviewed brokerages on their own. Timing makes a big difference, so make sure you get clear on where they are in the licensing process, as that will determine if you go ahead and refer them to a local Market Center or put them on your follow-up list to keep nurturing until they pass their licensing exams. Our Profit Share Site platform can help you automate and schedule follow-ups if it's not yet time to send them to a local KW office. Asking the recruit about where they are in the process might sound something like, "Tell me about where you are right now in the licensing process and how it's going so far." You would then want to determine when they expect to finish their licensing courses and when they plan to schedule their licensing exam. In addition to gaining clarity on where they are, this is where you could add in some additional questions like, "What do you know about Keller Williams? Do you currently know anyone inside the company? What's important to you in the real estate company you work with?" All of these questions will give you a well-rounded view of their current knowledge of KW and where they are in the process. Additionally, did you notice how we asked if they already know someone inside the company? We have found that if the recruit already has a pre-existing relationship with someone in the company, then directing them back to that individual is the best and the right thing to do. Why? Well, for starters, it's our culture. Second, there are many times I have seen people lose a recruit because they didn't ask this question and they already had a family member or friend in the company who they picked as their sponsor. More times than not, pointing a recruit with a pre-existing relationship inside the company back to that person will save you time and effort. To take it one step further, reach out to their KW contact and encourage them to connect with the recruit to help them on their journey. There is nothing more I love than hearing stories about KW associates who follow Mo Anderson's teaching of always do the right thing. Next steps and how you help them. Next, we want to give the recruit clarity on how we help them with their next steps. We want to position ourselves as the person who will connect them to a local KW office after they pass their licensing exam. If they have not yet passed their exam, let them know that you will be following up periodically to check in with them and encourage them along the path. Remember, the real estate licensing process can be intimidating for many people, so your continued encouragement can make a huge difference. If they have passed their licensing exams, let them know that you are going to go ahead and connect them to a local Keller Williams office. Make sure to clarify where they live, as sometimes they are moving out of state or live in an area with multiple KW offices. One of the top questions we get asked is, how do I find what KW offices are near the recruit, and how do I contact those offices? At the time of writing this book and recording this video or podcast, the referral applet in Command is the best place to find local KW offices. Additionally, you can go to offices.profitsharesites.com in order to see the best place to find local KW offices, as we keep this site updated for our members. This way, they always know where to go if KW makes any changes. Sponsorship explained. We believe it's important to explain sponsorship in an authentic and genuine way. Just as a real estate agent would ask for the right to work with a client, explaining sponsorship can make the difference between someone naming you as a sponsor or not. The method we teach to explain sponsorship is something like this. One last thing to mention before I connect you with the local KW office leadership. At KW, we have grown to be the largest residential franchise company without a national advertising budget. We have done this by creating a unique referral system that rewards those of us who sponsor great people into the company. When you officially join your Keller Williams office, you will fill out an agent sponsorship form where you will select the name of the person who is most influential in introducing you to that office and you joining that office. This is known as your sponsor into the company. If you feel that I have been helpful in the process, I'd be honored if you would consider putting my name down. Notice how authentic and genuine that was. We didn't tell them that they had to pick us, nor did we throw up profit share all over them. We clearly explained that we have a referral system, how sponsorship works, and for them to consider putting our name down. Feel free to take this conversation track and make it your own. Just remember, sponsorship is a choice they get to make. All you can do is add value and position yourself in the best way to earn it. Some of our members are strategic about only explaining sponsorship when the recruit is ready to be referred to an office. For example, let's say you have a recruiting conversation and the recruit is over a month away from taking their real estate licensing exam. Some of our members, honestly myself included, would not explain sponsorship until after the recruit has passed their licensing exam. In this situation, they call their recruit to congratulate them on passing their licensing exam and explain sponsorship at that moment. This allows the sponsorship conversation to be the most recent on their mind as they are referred to the local KW office. Others in our community choose to explain the sponsorship on every single recruiting call, no matter what. Both paths work, and you can find what feels best for you, but the bottom line is you should explain sponsorship, as this will improve your likelihood of earning it. Heather's story continued. Let's circle back to the story with Heather. I abruptly interrupted Heather to clarify what she had just said, and sure enough, she had found a way to get her discovery calls down with recruits to 10 minutes long. Up until this point, the vast majority of our members were doing 20 to 30-minute recruiting calls, and yet somehow Heather had stumbled upon what I would have said wasn't possible. I dug deeper to understand what Heather was doing, and she shared something profound. I follow the general framework, but I'm just honest with them that I don't have all the answers the local KW office does. I focus on quickly building rapport and then get them connected over to a local office. Amazingly, Heather proved that there's no one right way to have a recruiting call, and more importantly, you don't have to have all the answers to their questions. Remember what we said at the beginning. You're like a career counselor, not a doctor. You illuminate the path forward, and then you make the connection to local leadership. It's the local KW office's job to prescribe solutions and help the recruit with specific questions that only they have answers to for that market. For those who are starting with this process, I recommend you start with a 30-minute recruiting call and focus on earning sponsorship by following our recruiting call framework, which we've outlined in this video. Over time, as you master the skills, you can shorten the call down to 20 minutes or, heck, even 10 minutes like Heather. It doesn't have to take a lot of time to hold these recruiting calls, and you don't have to be a KW expert. You simply have to be willing to follow the process and create genuine connections with people. Lastly, thanks to Nick's commitment to doing thousands of recruiting calls, I've had the ability to get a bird's eye view on some interesting data. Based on Nick's result, a rate of 8 to 10 plus recruiting calls a week has led Nick to sponsoring over 100 people a year into the company, which he did for 3 consecutive years. I can't guarantee your results, but I recommend you use Nick's metrics as a benchmark for yourself as you set your own goals for how many people you want to sponsor into the company in a single year. Remember, you don't have to go big like Nick. If you sponsored 20 people a year for a 20-year career at Keller Williams, that would be 400 people you've sponsored into your first level. Referring recruits to a market center. The next natural step at the conclusion of the discovery call is to refer your recruit to a local KW office. In the next chapter, we will dive into the specific strategy we teach to properly refer recruits in order to improve the likelihood of being named sponsor. Before we jump into the next chapter, though, let's take a minute to discuss what happens if the recruit is not ready to be referred to the market center. This would be an agent who is not yet finished with their licensing classes or who has not yet passed their licensing exam. When a recruit is not ready to be referred, the conversation sounds something like this. Linda, it was so good to talk with you today and learn more about your real estate journey. I'm super excited to help sponsor you into Keller Williams. Since you're still about a month away from taking your final exam, I'm going to connect with you each week, either through text or a quick call, just to check in and see how you're progressing. Once you have passed your exam, I will personally make the introduction to the right person at your local office in your area so you can go speak with them about joining. Does that work for you? Inside our Profit Share Sites platform, we have an amazing pipeline tool that allows you to move a recruit into the follow-up phase and create a recurring task to make a quick follow-up each week with your recruit. Additionally, if they are within that first 6-month window of joining your Profit Share site, they will continue to receive weekly emails from you of KW-related value. As you grow your list of recruits to follow up with, we recommend you find a 30-minute time block each week to batch follow-up conversations and knock it out in an efficient manner. Now, what do you do when the recruit is ready to be referred to a local KW office? We're going to dig into that in the next episode.
All right, great job, Andy, on another amazing chapter. We just finished up chapter 5, where we talked about mastering the recruiting call. So let's kind of dive in, Andy, and talk about the structure of the call and some of the high points from the chapter.
Absolutely. You had mentioned something to me recently about coaching and consulting some of our users who have maybe reached out and so they weren't quite getting the results that they were hoping, or that some other people are seeing. And you had some interesting conversations with them. Go ahead and take it from here on what that looked like.
Yeah, sure. So recently, again, like Andy said, I've had some of our users reach out. One of the things I get to do is I get to work with them because I've seen so many recruiting calls between what Nick did on the front end and now working with hundreds of our KW agents or leaders who are using our tool. I've gotten an inside scoop at what those calls look like and how to do them well. And again, in the chapter, we list out kind of the 5 key points of a great phone call with a recruit. And I'll give you one example. I hopped on with one of our users and we were talking through how it was going. And I first dissect, right, where is the problem? And we kind of identified that, okay, doesn't sound like it's the handoff. Sounds like the problem's actually the recruiting call itself. And so my question to him, which I already kind of suspected, was, is the issue what's being said, or is the issue some way with structuring the call? So one of the things I realized is that I asked him, I said, tell me how much time you're talking in the recruiting call versus them. And come to find out, he was talking 80% of the time, and the recruiter was talking 20% of the time. Well, Linda always teaches us that you can never convince people to do anything. The only thing you can do is help them self-discover. The way you do that is questions, stories, and experiences. Well, when you're doing all the talking because you know so much about KW and you're just excited to throw up KW on them, they don't have a moment to feel like they're a part of the conversation. And we also say the person who talks the most feels like it was the best conversation. So the only thing I had him do was go back and relook at the 5 points, and I asked him to flip from him talking 80 versus them 20. I asked him to flip it. So go him talking 20 and them talking 80%. And sure enough, his results got better. Why did they get better? Because it's a simple rule of sales. A recruiting call is no different than a sales call. the more you let the customer talk and feel like they're a part of the discussion and conversation, the better it's going to go.
You know, in a second, I'll share a little bit about how I've approached some of my discovery calls and how that's changed over time. I think I probably started out on the 80% as well, but that's definitely changed. One thing that I think a lot of people feel uncomfortable about is asking for sponsorship, and it does feel uncomfortable at times. Can you talk a little bit about how to mitigate some of that, and how to go about asking it in an authentic way that, and also like when is the right time?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is the other area where I find a lot of people are like, if there's an issue with their skill set and having a better call, this is the other clear area that I typically find it. And I've had a few calls with people where they weren't bringing up sponsorship at all. So in our 5 points, the way I teach it is it's the last thing you do before you hop off the call. And here's why. They have no idea what sponsorship is. They have no idea how Keller Williams grows. They have no idea what profit share is, any of that stuff. So, there's a great conversation track inside the book, which Andy, you read to us, so you can go back and like listen to that section. Or if you get the book, you can read it anytime you want to refresh yourself. But it's no different than closing for a client, right? For a real estate agent, it's the same thing. You're just doing it with profit share, and so you have to learn how to do that in a way that feels good to you. So if you can learn how to do that, then, and again, the book gives you a really good way to approach it. And I perfected that based on what Nick learned the hard way over time. Of like, okay, I tried this, that didn't work. So then I switched it. Well, that was too much, so we found the sweet spot. And so then you can take it and really make it your own. But you definitely need to ask, and you need to have a way that you feel good about it. Because if you don't have those two things, then you won't do it. And your results are going to suffer because they don't know what sponsorship is. And if you don't help them understand it, they're going to name someone else the moment it's brought up.
And I'll share a tip in next week's episode or the next chapter's episode on something that I do as well.
Andy, talk a little bit about the story that we cover in the book with Heather and her aha around her recruiting calls.
One thing that I think is absolutely great is there's a lot of different ways to do the discovery call. We have our 5 steps, for a successful recruiting call. Download the cheat sheet, link in the description. Heather treated it a little bit differently. She was like, I am here, my role is to get you to the right person at the right time. And for me, that kind of was a big aha moment, because I came from outside of real estate. And if you've only been in real estate, or if you've been in real estate for a really long time and have never applied for another job, you probably would miss this. And that is, most jobs these days for any level of professional, the first call you have with somebody is not with the person who's hiring at a higher level. It's with somebody who is simply screening to take that person to the next step. It's qualifying the agent. It's qualifying for that position. And that was a big aha moment for me, because I had gone through a lot of those, and it was like, I can treat these the exact same way as I would treat, one of those for recruiting for any kind of position. And so my role is not to know all of the answers, as Heather said. It's to get you, it's to verify that you are what you say you are, and to move you to that next appropriate person who has all of those answers. My role is a little bit different.
Yeah, and she figured out how to do that in 10 minutes, which is incredible, where our average phone call is about 20, and some people who start out around 30. So she had just figured out that, hey, my job's better to be the person to direct you to the resource. And it worked for her. She recruited 16 people in 90 days. So,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say she proved that it works.
Yeah, and if you're not quite sure if it works, my recent one was 9 minutes long, and I got a good history on the individual's move into real estate, and he's going to join, and he's going to name me a sponsor. You know, one thing that we talked about a little bit in the chapter, but I want to really emphasize the importance of it, is show-up rates. And one thing that we heard from a few of our folks early on, and then we started broadcasting it to all of the people who had a profit share site, was, what are people's behaviors these days? Okay, you book a call with somebody. Like, if I see a call come in on my phone and I don't have a name attached to that, I am not picking it up. So I can't remember who it was, but they were texting the individual in advance. And so we started doing that as well. We started recommending that the people with profit share sites text the person the day before the day of the recruiting call, and that started improving show rates. But it got even better than that, because if you treat it kind of like a medical office does, I get texts from my doctors, my dentist, saying, hey, can you confirm your appointment? With that simple yes or no, it did two things. One, it prompted a response. Yes, that time works. No, actually, can we do it this other time? Whereas before, they would just not pick up. And the second thing it did is it allowed us to say, hey, look, we're going to be calling from this number. I know you probably don't recognize it. Obviously, we'd say it in a much nicer way. And so they would see that number and they would recognize it. They've already had an exchange with us. We've introduced ourselves, and maybe they've even saved our information into their phone. So it ended up increasing show-up rates significantly. I think when, if my memory serves me correctly, I went from a 60% show-up rate to like an 80 or 90% show-up rate. And it was all because we asked that one question: does today still work for you?
Okay, well, Andy, thank you for reading this week. We'll be on with you next week, and we can't wait for you to learn more as we dive into chapter 6. So we'll see you next week.